want to talk about fonts inside of Quilt Path. If you go to the plugins at the top and you go to your font stitcher, Quilt Path is going to use the fonts that are in your Windows fonts directory to create patterns for you. This means that any TrueType font that is inside of your directory can be used to stitch out designs. Now, what it's actually using is the outline of that font. If you were in a design program like Publisher, you would be able to set the outside color of your font, right, the outline, and then also set the fill color of your font. So it is using the outline. That is both good and bad, right? So the good thing is it gives you all of these fonts you can use. The bad part of that is that all of those outlines are relying on being able to put themselves behind the fill, right? So they're not always drawn continuously. So let me show you what I mean by that. I am just going to use a name to show you this. So I am going to use Ada, which is the name of my dog. So I typed in Ada, right? And this is the design that I want to quilt, okay? Now, by default, it's going to come up with the first font on my list. I do have some publishing software on my system, so I may have more fonts on my system than is on yours. It's going to be based on what you have installed on your system, and this is not a tablet that I'm on, okay? So there's a good chance that I have more fonts than you do. But you can also add fonts. So if you have a TrueType font that you really like and it's in your Windows directory, it's going to come up, or you can purchase fonts or install programs that have additional fonts on them, and then you would be able to use those too, as long as they're located in that same directory. Okay, so by default, my first font is Agency FB, and this is how Ada would look if I quilted it out of this. Now, the inside of this A, there's a jump stitch, right? The outside is going to be continuous. There's going to be a jump stitch up to the triangle that's inside it, another jump stitch over to the D, another jump stitch to the inside of the D, right? Because these are floating, they're not attached to anything. So if I was going to use this, there would be a lot of jump stitches. Then my natural idea behind that was, well, what if I use something that is script based instead of using a more angular font, right? So let's go and look at some different fonts. So if I click on the font name, it's going to bring up all of the fonts that I have installed on my system, and I can scroll down and choose something like, a different font. So let's do Lucinda handwriting, okay, which would make me feel like it should be continuous. But this is what I was talking about, outlines, thinking that they can go underneath a fill of another letter. So the way that they make this particular font look like it is continuous when you're using things like Word is that they are putting the tail of the D underneath the A. And because the A is filled, you don't see it, okay? So if I want this to be continuous on my screen, I would need to do some editing to make that happen. So let's go ahead and use this one. There's a couple things. First of all, I'd like my A to be a little bit bigger just because I want it bigger, and I also want it closer to my D. And then I want to see if I can make this pretty much continuous. There will still be some jump stitches in my case because I want the triangle to float. I want the teardrops and the D and the A to float. So those would still be jump stitches in this case. Now I could, do a straight line down, a stitched line down to make that. But if I want them to float, it would have to be a jump stitch. Okay. So those are design details that you have to decide. So when I say okay on this, it's going to make sure I've saved my file, and I'm going to say okay. And I am just going to start a new folder here and name my folder video, so I know it must spell video correctly, but I'm going to do video, go in there and save my font into that folder. Right? Okay. And then it's going to bring this in as a pattern. So if I go into optimize, this is going to stitch just the way that it is, right? So if I go into optimize and I looked at the optimize, you'll see it's going to outline the A, it's going to jump stitch up and do the triangle inside, right? It would do the outside of the D, the inside of the D, the outside of the A, right? Which is right here, right? And then the inside of the A. Okay, so that makes sense the way it's going to stitch. What I really want to do is see if I can't get the ADA to stitch continuously. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I would do that. Okay, so one of the things that I said is I want my A to be bigger, my capital A to actually be taller than my DA. I just think it would look better, and that's a personal choice, right? So on the right side of my screen, I am going to tell it I want to select section, and then I am going to tap and pull a pink box, and it will it's going to select all of the nodes around that A. If I then tap and pull another pink box to get just one node of the triangle inside, it will select all of that too. So I'm using the select section to only have to get part of the line, right? To be able to select it. You do have to do the two lines, the two individual sections separately, because this is only selecting one section. It's not plural, right? So that's why I did the outside and then the inside, is because it's only going to do one at a time. Okay. Then I want to make this bigger. So I am going to go to my size, right? I'm going to lock my aspect ratio because I want my A to stay the same aspect ratio. I just want it to get bigger. I also want to be able to see what's actually happening. So I'm going to turn my nodes off so that I don't have the red dots interfering with what I can see. And I'm going to change my step increment on the right to medium as a guess, just to see how it looks. If I go up once by medium, I'm going to go up twice by medium. And then I'm going to click where I think there would be a node, because I can't see them right now, but typically in a point there's going to be a node. So if I tap that, I can actually bring it up and drag it and get it to touch the D beside it. Now I am going to go ahead and zoom in on this, and I want to move it a little bit away from where I had it. So I'm just going to grab another point and kind of drag down. I like it better there. It looks more like it is in line across the ADA. And because this is touching or almost touching here, I should be able to edit this and get it to where I can get the entire outline of the ADA continuous. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to turn my nodes back on so that we can see them. And this time I am going to go back to select on the left, on the right side, and do select all. So the entire design is selected. And the cool thing about zooming in or out in Quilt Path when you're in PatternCAD is that it is going to focus whatever you are zooming on into the center of your screen. So I am going to increase this and focus it, and then I'm going to decrease it. I just wanted this centered, and I was using the zoom in and out to help me do that. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and unselect all, and I want to look at how I can get this to join together. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to need to focus way in on this. Oops, I still have select section chosen, and I don't want that. I want it to do here. I want to focus in on that section right there. And the entire reason I focused in and out a minute ago is so that you could see the difference in why I am selecting just little sections of this at a time and then zooming in and out. And it's so that it focuses and centers. See how it gets it really big, and in what I'm trying to work on, it's right in my screen. Okay, so I'm going to unselect all, And these are not quite touching. So I'm going to do my section again, select section, and I'm going to select both parts of my A, and I want to move it over just a little bit. And I'm actually going to make my life easier and try to move it over and possibly down just a little bit to get it closer to this node that is sitting on my D. Okay. And the reason that I'm doing that, the little bit that I moved it is not going to make a huge difference on how the A looks in relationship to the D in this case. But if I have nodes that I can break apart, it makes it really, really easy to join these together. So let's unselect our section, right? And go to unselect all so that nothing is selected. And then I need to peel apart the nodes in this section right here. So let's zoom in just one more time so that we can really see what I'm about to do, right? And these are the nodes I'm going to be playing with. So I am going to, first of all, pull this one apart just a little bit. And then I'm going to come over to the bottom of my A and pull it apart. Okay. And I actually want the A to touch together here. And I'm going to want these two to touch together, right? So I'm going to highlight the two on the bottom, the two nodes that are almost stacked on top of each other, but not quite. And I'm going to snap those two selected ones together. And then I'm going to pull these two over on top of it. And I'm not going to snap them together quite yet. Okay, I'm going to unselect all, and I'm going to go into my optimize, right? And you can see this is 1, and this is actually 4 at this point. I want this to be a 2 because I'm trying to make this continuous. So I can do that by going underneath the show section number button and changing to a 2. And then changing my 4 to a 2. So now this whole thing is 1, and this is going to be 2. Okay. Now, the other thing I should have done that I didn't think about was that I should have come over and change that to my start point, but I didn't do that. Okay. So I'm just going to say okay on what I did. Zoom back out because I know I need to change where my start and end point are. And I'm going to pull my end point slightly apart, and I'm just going to leave it for now. And then go back into my optimize. And now this is going to let me say, this is 1, right? And this is 2. Okay. Okay. And the reason I did this is because I'm going to want to be doing this multiple times, and I just don't want it to be joined anymore. Okay, I'm going to highlight in on where I want to be working again and zoom in, unselect all, and then I need to pull this apart for just a second again. And the reason is I need this one and this one, right, the two on the top, to be together. So that I can get this to be continuous. So let's zoom in again, right? So this whole thing is 1, and now it is stopping at my joint, and I still want this to be 2, right? So I'm going to change it to 2 and say I want this to be 2. Number 3 is now 2. And Quilt Path is smart enough to go, oh, okay, well, I can join that all together for you. Right? Which is part of the reason that I separated these two ends out, is because it's smart enough to know from that D, I can put this all together for you. Right? So now if I stopped, it would go around the A, the top of the A, and around the entire D. But I don't really want it to do that because I want it to come over to this A and go around the top of the little a, right? So I'm going to do that by deleting the tail over here. So I'm going to say, okay. I'm going to zoom back out because now what I want to look at is this section with the tail inside it, right? And I'm going to zoom in on that section, unselect all, and I'm going to delete big parts of this tail that are inside, right? So you do need to do both ends of the line that you want to delete. And I'm just going to delete both of these, or grab both of these, because it's not going to delete the one on the A because I only have one little circle on the A selected. And then I think that I'm going to leave this one because I'm going to want to pull this one backwards. I'm pretty sure. So I am going to hit the delete key and it's going to delete quite a bit of that tail. Okay. And then the next thing I'm going to want to do is start peeling apart right here. So let's zoom in on that so we can really see what's happening. Hit the unselect button. And I'm going to want to pull this up a little bit and still try to keep the shape of the A if I can. I'm going to pull this down a little bit, but I'm going to pull the one coming in from the D right up. And I'm going to snap those together. So snap selected, right? And then this here, I want to delete, right? And then I need to pull this line back to the one on the A, and I'm going to snap those together. And then I'm going to zoom back out again so that you can see what I did. So now it should be going over the A. I want it to go around the top of the D, jump to the A, come back in, right? And it's going to come back to this point. So let's look at optimize again. So we have the A is in the right position. It's going all the way to the end of the D, and that is all segment number 1. See the 1 right here? That's on the yellow highlighted line, right? Now I want this 7 to stitch second. So I'm going to change my number between the minus and the plus sign to a 2. Change that 7 to a 2. I now want to change the 5 to a 2 because this is all 1 now. So I'm going to go down so that there's a 2 between my minus and plus sign again. Change my 5 to a 2. And then I want to change to 2 again because now I want my 4 to be a 2. And when I highlight, right, it's not joining this one together because remember, I left those apart on purpose. So I am going to say okay to this. I'm going to highlight back to the area that I started at. I'm going to zoom in on that. Unselect all. And now I am going to pull these all back to that same point again. And I will snap them all to the same point. And then I will do my optimize again and come in here. And it has magically fixed this for me. Now, more than likely when I'm stitching this, I am going to want it to stitch my ADA. It's going to stop here, and I'm going to want it to jump up to the triangle because that is next, right? Or that's going to be close to where I stopped. So I would want it to do, 1 for the whole outline, and then 3 and 4 as jump stitches. Now, let's say that I'm okay with it stitching straight up on this A. Like I am okay with the line going from here to here and having it stitch straight. Now, I would think that if I just tapped on this, it would fix it, but it always does this weird point when you do this in fonts. So that's not the look I'm looking for, right? So I am going to go ahead and say undo, right? And say okay. And I'm going to draw that line in instead. So I'm going to come back up and I'm going to draw from this mark here up. So I want to zoom in on that area so that we can see what we're doing, right? Unselect all, go to my pattern draw. I'm going to do a line and I want to make sure continuous line is off because what continuous line does is it draws a line from wherever your endpoint is, which in this case is on the second A, right? I want my line to go from here, and this is the direction I want it to quilt in, from here up to, oops, it drew the line for me because I'm node spacing. Oh, see, that's a good one. It is drawing it is like stitch regulating. It's dropping notes. I really don't want it to do that. So we're going to hit the back button and turn that off so I can pull a single line up here. Okay. And then I'm going to optimize again, right? Because I want that to be number 2. So what I just drew to be number 2 right here. So I'm going to go and change this back to a number 2. Right? And then I'm going to click on my 5 and it's going to become a 2. And I know that I'm going to want the 5 to be a 3. So I'm keeping it in order as I'm doing it at this point, right? And I'm going to say, okay, that's how I want you to stitch out Quilt Path, right? I wanted to do it continuous, right? But I also want things to be straight when I do this. So I'm going to start out by, oops, I'm still on draw. So I'm going to hit the undo button. I didn't mean to do that. I'm going to go to pattern edit. I'm going to draw around these 2 points and I'm going to snap selected, which should make that continuous, right? I'm going to draw around these 2 points, make this snap connected, right? And then I'm going to grab those 2 points again and pull them over my start point, right? And then unselect all so that I can do all 3 of those and snap those together too, right? So now everything is snapped together so that I'll have clean lines when I'm doing stuff. So then I can say, okay, or say optimize, come back in here, right? And it would be stitching that much of it at one time. Now I could go in and do the same thing and drop a line straight down from here, you know, peel things apart, optimize in, have this stitched correctly. I could also do things like saying, I want it to start right here, repeat over the entire bottom of this, right? And stop, say here or somewhere in here and make this a continuous line design. It is not going to be continuous by default. This is going to be, at best, something that, you know, that's something that has jump stitches if I don't mend them out. If I do mend them out, the start and end point will all be on the same point, right? So to get this to be continuous, there is going to be a lot of design work. I would call this intermediate design work. It's not typically like, you know, newbie to PatternCAD going to be able to do this without having any frustration. So I would say it's probably an intermediate level task. That being said, it's not difficult. And I will say that there are some words that I have set up this way because I use them more often than other things. Like I have one that says go pack, right? Because NC State is here and they're the wolf pack. So I have a pantograph that says go pack on it. And I created that so that I could put it on a graduation quilt for someone who was graduating from NC State. And I just used the font that the customer wanted me to do. So it is not the trademarked font for NC State. It's actually a script font that the customer chose, right? More like they were writing it to the person that they were giving the quilt to. I have some names that I have put in here. So like my niece's name, my 2 nephews' names, right? Both of them have pantographs that are, all 3 of them, sorry, have pantographs that have their names in them, right? I have weirdly both of my dogs' names as continuous designs because I've quilted, you know, beds and things like that and put their names all over them. So there are some fonts that I have already set up that I can just drop on at will when I'm doing things. If I'm doing it for a client, most of the time, if it's a one-off name, I'm probably not going to make it continuous because it takes some time to make it continuous and have it look the way I want it to look because I am picky. And to me, that's not worth it. It's not, I'm not making the money I need to do to spend the design time. So, and my customers are happy because it has the name. They don't know the difference between a continuous line design and one that has jump stitches. So I hope this helps and gives you the information that you're looking for on how to use your fonts a little bit differently and why fonts do what they do. And yeah. it's not, like I said, not hard to do. I'm going to go in and out again so that it'll just put Ada back in the center for us. But yeah, so this is going to quilt. If I save it now over what we did to begin with, right, I can now use this in any part of the program. Like I put it in the center of a border, or I can set it as a block, right? It's not a continuous design, so it's not going to join together magically in Pantograph. I would have to do more work if I wanted that to happen. Okay. So if you like content like this, please tell me by hitting the like button, you know, follow the channel, subscribe to the channel. I'm more than happy to do more educational videos like this. I just have, you know, kind of taken a little bit of a break, but just tell me if you want me to do stuff like this, guys. It's not hard. And like I said, this is fun. I love using fonts inside of things, and I would love to see quilts that you guys have quilted using fonts on your quilts. You can post them on Quilt Path Central on Facebook if you'd like to, or feel free to you know, send me pictures or tag me on social media so that I can see your designs too. I hope you're having fun with your Quilt Path or your Quilter's Creative Touch, and I look forward to seeing what you create. Have a great day.